This series begins by showing the phenomenon of a solar storm occurring in 1997, predicted to reach Earth and potentially disrupt all communication devices and electronic goods due to the radiation emitted by this natural phenomenon. The worst impact of the solar storm could even lead to half of the human population dying from starvation and extreme global temperature rise. In the same year, a mysterious woman creates a system called GRID, designed to protect the Earth from solar storms. 24 years later, in 2021, a man named Sae Ha is seen getting into a car after shopping at a convenience store. At that moment, Sae Ha unintentionally witnesses a suspicious man exiting the convenience store after committing murder against the store clerk. Shortly after, the police, alerted to the murder, begin investigating the crime scene by collecting evidence and questioning Sae Ha as a witness. Based on surveillance camera footage, the on-duty employee named Bin had previously instructed a man wearing a hat not to drink beer inside the convenience store. But the man disregarded the warning, leading to his anger and the man's frustration, culminating in the man fatally stabbing Bin with scissors. Upon viewing the surveillance footage, Sae Ha, who has the ability to read lip movements, can easily decipher the conversation between the perpetrator and the victim. After the investigation concludes, the police finally identify the perpetrator as Kim Manak, who resides in an old, closed-down clinic building. Shortly after, investigative team is dispatched to the clinic to apprehend him. Upon arrival, policewoman named Jung Sae Byeok immediately pursues the fleeing perpetrator through a window. Strangely, the perpetrator appears to be assisted by a mysterious woman, allowing Manak to escape police capture. Despite this, Sae Byeok does not give up and continues to pursue him. However, just as Sae Byeok is about to apprehend him, the mysterious woman intervenes again, aiding Manak. At that moment, Sae Byeok is forced to engage in a fight with the woman until she mysteriously disappears before her eyes. Switching to Sae Ha, who works at the Administration Bureau, after obtaining information about the estimated appearance of the woman who assisted Manak, Sae Ha immediately presents it to Deputy Director Choi Soon-woo and her team. Soon-woo, upon learning of this, orders Sae Ha and the team to take over the case of Manak's murder. With that orders, he goes to the police station to announce that the Administration Bureau will handle the murder case committed by Manak and requests all the evidence collected by the police. After the case is taken over by Soon-woo's team, Manak and the mysterious woman, later dubbed as the Ghost, become official fugitives in Korea. On the other hand, Sae Byeok discovers a strand of hair in the Ghost's hat, which she took after their previous fight. Curious about the identity of this mysterious woman, she goes to the hospital to conduct a DNA test. However, strangely, after the doctor examines it, the Ghost has abnormal DNA resembling that of a deceased person. Sae Byeok also senses the same oddity as she had previously been attacked by the Ghost's strange device, resulting in a burn on her arm. Meanwhile, Sae Ha and his colleague, Song-ho Jin, go to the hospital to retrieve the DNA test results of the Ghost. Upon learning of this, Sae Byeok attempts to flee with the documents, prompting Sae Ha to chase her car down the street. After successfully stopping Sae Byeok's car, Sae Ha asks her to hand over the documents, informing her that she no longer needs to be involved in Manak's case. Meanwhile, Manak, now a fugitive, resumes criminal activities by stealing money from a man working in a shop. However, the Ghost intervenes and thwarts the theft, revealing her ability to manipulate time. She appears before Manak, who doesn't recognize her at all and appears frightened, prompting him to run away from her. After revealing herself to Manak, the Ghost is seen going to a pastry shop to enjoy some of her favorite cakes before returning home to relax. Back to Sae Ha, who secretly seeks additional evidence about Manak's case by visiting the abandoned clinic, which was Manak's previous hiding place. While searching for clues, he unexpectedly encounters Sae Byeok, who hasn't given up on investigating the same case, even though it's no longer the police's responsibility. They eventually search for supporting evidence together and go to a noodle restaurant located on the ground floor of the clinic building. While enjoying their food, Sae Byeok and Sae Ha attempt to gather information about Manak from the restaurant owner named Chung Hee. At that moment, she mentions that Manak had eaten at her restaurant several times without knowing he lived upstairs. Sae Byeok then gives her police business card to Chung Hee and asks her to contact her if she sees Manak again. The next day, Soon-woo, who had just arrived at the Administration Bureau office, was suddenly alerted that someone had entered her room without permission. She hurriedly went to her room where Sae Ha was already inside, pretending to be cleaning up trash. Unexpectedly, Sae Ha deliberately entered his superior's room to obtain Soon-woo's fingerprints so that he could later access the secret room on the 16th floor where all the information about Manak and the ghost was stored. After taking Soon-woo's water bottle, which was suspected to have her fingerprints, Sae Ha asked for Sae Byeok's help to print those fingerprints, which he then used to access the 16th floor. Upon reaching a storage room, Sae Ha found an external memory drive in Manak's casebox and immediately copied the data inside the memory. Shortly after, Sae Ha rushed out of his office and went by car to an alley where he attempted to alter the CCTV footage to make it appear that Soon-woo was the one who entered the secret floor. Fortunately, just before the security guards in the control room realized Sae Ha as an intruder, he managed to change the recording of himself to Soon-woo. Sometime later, Sae Ha examined the files he had copied from the external data until he found footage from 24 years ago, where a janitor from the Institute of Radio Research named Lee Jung-hyuk, along with his son, Lee Si-won, was suddenly attacked by the ghost using a device that caused Jung-hyuk to be fatally burned all over his body. In addition to this recording, several other recordings showed that the ghost was also present in several different countries at the same time. With this discovery, Sae Ha then met with Sae Byeok to show her all the footage he had found. Similar to him, Sae Byeok also felt there were many anomalies about the ghost, especially the mysterious figure's weapons that had previously injured her. Turning to Manak's hideout, where several snipers were seen positioned on the building tops to target the perpetrator of the mini-market murder. But the ghost once again thwarted the capture plan by incapacitating the snipers. Meanwhile, Manak, realizing that Chung-hee had reported him to the authorities, forcibly entered her residence and assaulted her. Manak then attempted to escape from the administration bureau agents by boarding a train, but his whereabouts were easily tracked by the agents due to the tracker placed on his jacket. Manak once again evaded the pursuing agents until the ghost rewound time to save him and dropped him onto the disused subway tracks. She then took Manak to an abandoned tunnel where she suddenly trapped the murderer. Panicked, Manak tried to scream for help to be released from the confinement. Meanwhile, Sae Byeok appeared at the location of Chung-hee's attack, but unfortunately, the administration bureau agents prevented her from entering and viewing the crime scene directly. In the underground tunnel, Manak, still confined, accidentally found a small iron plate, prompting him to plan an escape. Without hesitation, he began cutting the iron bars confining him before the ghost returned to the tunnel. Shortly after, the ghost returned to the abandoned tunnel with some food for Manak, but she couldn't find him as he had already escaped. Using her advanced device, the ghost rewound time, unknowingly causing Manak to return back into the iron bars. The next day, Sae Byeok met with her superior, Go Hun-sung, who informed her that she was being transferred to another province because she had interfered too much in the Manak case being handled by the Administration Bureau. Before officially being transferred, Sae Byeok then requested leave from Hun-sung, claiming she wanted to go on vacation, when in reality, she planned to secretly investigate the Manak case. Sae Byeok then went to the hospital where Chung-hee was being treated, and upon hearing that she had survived Manak's attack, Sae Byeok appeared relieved. Unexpectedly, the sniper who was the victim of the ghost attack was also being treated at the same hospital with burns similar to those she had previously experienced. After eavesdropping on the doctor's conversation with Sae Ha about the sniper's condition, Sae Byeok accidentally ran into Sae Ha. On the other hand, Soon-woo, who was very ambitious about capturing the ghost, devised a plan with director Jo Hung-sik via video call. From their conversation, it was revealed that 24 years ago, Soon-woo was the first person to find Si-won alone after the incident of Jung-hyuk's death before she finally took him to the hospital. Therefore, Soon-woo is now trying to locate Si-won so she can interrogate him about the attack on Jung-hyuk. Without wasting time, the next day, Soon-woo went to the Department of Population to search for information about Si-won, but the officials suspected that he had died since he was not registered for military service. However, the Population Department officer Soon-woo met informed her that Si-won was not Jung-hyuk's biological son because in 1992, Jung-hyuk was recorded to have adopted Si-won when he was 1 year old. Returning to Sae Byeok, increasingly curious about the ghost and the events surrounding Jung-hyuk's death, where she searched for various articles related to the incident. At that time, Sae Byeok even suspected that Sae Ha might be Jung Hyuk's son because he seemed ambitious to investigate cases related to the ghost. After further investigation into Jung Hyuk's surname, Sae Byeok became doubtful whether Sae Ha was the janitor's son. Meanwhile, when Sae Ha returned home, he immediately met with the nurse who had been caring for his mother while he was at work. Apparently, Sae Ha's mother had been seriously ill for years, causing her to be bedridden. Seeing his mother's condition continually deteriorate, Sae Ha appeared saddened but determined not to give up and resolved to find a way to cure his mother, who was his only living parent. On another occasion, Sae Ha held a meeting with Soonwol and other administration bureau members to discuss the plan to capture the fugitives Manak and the ghost. At that moment, Oh-jin suggested creating posters of Manak and the ghost and distributing them throughout the city, announcing a reward for anyone who provided information or captured the two fugitives. Although the idea could be the quickest alternative to capture the fugitives, Sae Ha disagreed because it could endanger many civilians considering the ghost's ability to possess a deadly weapon. Furthermore, the ghost would always protect Manak, potentially resulting in many casualties. Sae Ha then suggested announcing false information about a malfunctioning grid system to lure the ghost to the Administration Bureau office to fix the grid system. Knowing that the ghost was the one who created the system with technology not available in the past, all members seemed to agree with Sae Ha's idea, but because it involved national security, the Administration Bureau had to present the proposal to the Ministry of Defense. When Soonwol and her team held a meeting with the ministry to present Sae Ha's proposal, the minister was not entirely in favor because announcing the grid system's malfunction could cause turmoil among the public. Considering this, the minister decided to accept Oh-jin's proposal to distribute photos of Manak and the ghost while asking for the public's assistance in capturing the two fugitives with a monetary reward. After the photos of Manak and the ghost were distributed in various places, including the train station, two men suddenly intercepted the ghost, who was disguised as an office worker. Unfortunately, the rough treatment by the two men prompted a janitor named Kyung Hee, who was nearby, to intervene and prevent the men from capturing the ghost because she perceived her as an ordinary office worker. The two men, irritated by Kyung Hee, also attacked the janitor until Sae Byeok, passing by, intervened and stopped them without realizing that the office worker she helped was the ghost. After the ghost left, Sae Byeok showed photos of Manak and the ghost to Kyung Hee and asked if she had ever seen the two fugitives in the station area, hoping for information about Manak's last whereabouts at the station. Unfortunately, Sae Byeok didn't get any information from Kyung Hee because the janitor had never seen Manak or the ghost at all. Shortly after, Kyung Hee went to an underground passage where the janitor accidentally discovered Manak's whereabouts, who was being held captive. Realizing that Manak was the fugitive they were looking for, Kyung Hee immediately informed Sae Byeok about it. Strangely, when Sae Byeok arrived, the cage was empty, so she opened and inspected it. Unexpectedly, Manak was hiding above and suddenly attacked her. Fortunately, with her martial arts skills, the policewoman managed to subdue and capture Manak. Manak was then taken to the police station for interrogation, but Soonwol and her team arrived to request that Manak be handed over to the Administration Bureau. This angered Hun-sung and the other police officers, as they were the ones who captured Manak. Unfortunately, Soonwol insisted on taking Manak away until Sae Byeok pointed a gun at Manak, threatening to kill him if Soonwol continued to insist on taking him away. In the midst of the argument, Sae Byeok finally agreed to allow Soonwol to take Manak on the condition that she be included in the investigation team for Manak's case. With no other choice, Soonwol reluctantly agreed, although Oh-jin protested against her decision. That night, the ghost also learned about Manak's capture, prompting her to appear at the Administration Bureau office to rescue him. All the officers struggled to track the ghost's whereabouts as she could teleport to another room in a short time. Fortunately, the ghost fell into a trap set by the Administration Bureau team when entering the grid system storage room. Upon realizing being trapped, the ghost immediately teleported and suddenly appeared in front of Soonwol's group, who had just arrived from the police station. At that moment, the prepared Administration Bureau agents immediately fired shots that incapacitated the ghost. Unfortunately, one of the shots hit Soonwol, resulting in her death on the spot. Helpless, the ghost was then taken to the laboratory where her weapons were secured to prevent her from using her powers to escape. Additionally, The ghost was injected with a sedative to prevent her from rebelling when the Administration Bureau removed the chip implanted in her hand. Apparently, the chip functioned as a signal converter in the brain to electronic signals, allowing the ghost to teleport to a place just by thinking about it and pressing a button on the device she usually carried. Oh-jin, now the new leader of the investigation team following Soon-woo's death, attempted to interrogate the ghost. Unfortunately, she flatly refused to answer any of Oh-jin's questions and instead whispered words that confused him. Meanwhile, Sae Ha received a video message from the surveillance camera recording at his home, showing the ghost killing his mother by injecting a fluid. Enraged by this revelation, Sae Ha stormed into the laboratory, pointing a weapon at everyone present and approaching the ghost to demand an explanation for killing his mother. Unexpectedly, it was all a trap set by her, who knew she would be captured, exploiting Sae Ha's situation to convince him to re-implant her chip and give her the weapon back. If Sae Ha complied, the ghost claimed she could rewind time to save his mother. Hearing this, Sae Ha hurriedly took the chip but instead implanted it into his hand and took the ghost weapon so he could rewind time to save his deceased parents. Outside the room, several Administration Bureau agents were seen placing a bomb at the laboratory entrance, locked by Sae Ha, intending to detonate it despite the potential loss of lives. Returning to Sae Ha, who had used the ghost device, successfully rewound time and arrived in 1997 to save his father, Kim Se-hoon. At that time, Sae Ha stood in front of the Administration Bureau office, still functioning as the Institute of Radio Research, where he encountered the control room chief, Kwon Hyuk, who was still a regular staff member and recognized him as Se-hoon. When Sae Ha entered the building, he witnessed the ghost killing Se-hoon, who was a professor, to obtain his business card to access the system in the laboratory room. Meanwhile, Jung Hyuk, upon seeing the lifeless body of Se-hoon, panicked and attempted to seek help. Sae Ha, on the other hand, intentionally restrained Si-won to prevent the young boy from following Jung Hyuk, who was now trying to call someone for help using the phone in the laboratory. When Jung Hyuk saw the ghost tampering with the professor's machine, he attempted to stop her, but the ghost fought back, resulting in his death from being impaled by a sharp piece of metal in the laboratory. Unfortunately, Si-won managed to follow Jung Hyuk to the laboratory and witnessed his father's death. The series of events that Sae Ha experienced in the past turned out to be different from what he knew in the future. This was due to his appearance, causing all past events to be automatically reset, which could alter the future. Having learned how his father died, Sae Ha then rewound time to just before the ghost killed Se-hoon. To save his father, Sae Ha deliberately took Se-hoon's business card and handed it to the ghost before she attacked him. With his action, Sae Ha hoped that the creation of the grid system would not claim casualties as before. While watching the ghost complete the grid system, Sae Ha confessed that he was from the future and wanted to save Se-hoon's life using the weapon and chip belonging to her from the future. At the same time, the ghost suddenly began to lose consciousness. Unfortunately, before revealing the activation code for the grid system, she disappeared because her chip was now inside Sae Ha's body. After the incident, Sae Ha teleported to 2021, where everyone had to wear protective clothing to be outdoors because the grid system was not completed, causing the Earth to be affected by solar storms. Shortly after, Sae Ha returned to the year 2005 and visited a protective clothing manufacturing plant so that everyone could be shielded from the radiation exposure of solar storms. At that time, Sae Ha attempted to find his mother at the location, but according to the testimony of the factory workers, his mother was never employed there as Sae Ha had previously thought. While he was still inside the factory, Sae Ha witnessed firsthand how the natural phenomenon of a solar storm struck the Earth, causing all technology to malfunction. Everyone then hurried to take cover and dampen their bodies with water to avoid the dreadful effects of the solar storm. Shortly after, Sae Ha visited his old family home, and to his surprise, his family lived in a relatively luxurious residence at that time. Seeing this, Sae Ha felt happy to reunite with both of his still-living parents. Unfortunately, all of his happiness was overshadowed by the numerous people suffering from burns due to the effects of the solar storm. Additionally, in 2005, Sae Ha witnessed his father receiving several awards for successfully developing technology capable of removing radioactive contamination from solar storms. Although the method developed by Se-hoon was not yet perfect, many people were eventually helped by the technology created by him. At the same time, Sae Ha had also become an executive director at a large company, enjoying various luxurious facilities with ease. On another day, Sae Ha suddenly remembered Sae Byeok, so he tried to find her, who at that time was not working as a police officer but as a librarian. Upon seeing Sae Byeok, Sae Ha was shocked to see her, who had become permanently deaf and mute due to exposure to solar radiation. With so many people suffering due to the absence of the grid system, Sae Ha began to question whether his decision to save his parents was the right one because it actually hindered the creation of the grid system that protected the Earth from solar storms. Sae Ha began to think that he was far more wicked than the ghost, who sacrificed 2 lives to save humanity, while he sacrificed millions of people just to save his parents. After that, regret continued to haunt Sae Ha until one day, he suddenly hugged both of his parents and bid them farewell because he planned to rectify his mistake by ensuring the successful creation of the grid system made by the ghost. Shortly afterward, Sae Ha returned to the year 1997, where he stole Sehun's business card and attempted to create the grid system alone. Unfortunately, Sehun discovered this and entered the laboratory, resulting in a fight between them that ended with Sehun being killed after being impaled by a sharp metal object in the room. At the same time, Jung Hyuk entered the laboratory and witnessed the murder, prompting him to rush out of the building for help. Sensing that Jung Hyuk would pose a threat, Sae Ha followed the janitor. Unfortunately, during the pursuit, Sae Ha was obstructed by C1, causing him to accidentally aim his weapon at C1's eye area, resulting in the boy being blinded. Frustrated by his repeated failures to change the future, Sae Ha then returned to the year 2021 to meet the ghost, who was at that time helping Manak evade the police. In their meeting, the ghost seemed to know what Sae Ha had done in the past, advising him not to change the past because small changes in the past would have significant impacts on the future. After receiving this message, Sae Ha returned to 1997 and allowed the ghost to complete her task of building the grid system. Additionally, he also had to witness the ghost killing Sehun and Jung Hyuk without offering any resistance to avoid disrupting the future due to his actions. While the ghost was completing her task, Kwon Hyuk suddenly entered the laboratory and attempted to stop her. Just as the ghost was about to eliminate Kwon Hyuk, Sae Ha managed to save him and instructed the security officer to keep quiet about everything he had seen. After rectifying the mistakes he had made, the grid system was finally created and saved humanity across the country from solar storms. Shortly afterward, Sae Ha went to the year 2006 to meet his younger self and confront his mother, who had been depressed since losing Sehun. Adult Sae Ha was seen embracing his younger self and providing encouragement for the younger Sae Ha to overcome all the challenges of life. Sae Ha then returned to the year 2021 just before his time travel, where he quickly removed the chip from his hand, alerting Sae Byeok to his time traveling. Ignoring her reaction, Sae Ha returned the chip and the weapon he held to the ghost. Unfortunately, at the same time, the Administration Bureau agents were waiting for orders to detonate the locked laboratory. Shortly after, Oh Jin, who was still inside the room and approaching the door, was suddenly startled by a bomb explosion, prompting the ghost to use her power to rewind time. But she decided not to erase the memories of Sae Ha and Sae Byeok. The scene then reverted back to a few hours before Manak's arrest at the station, and Soonwol was still alive. In the train station corridor, Sae Byeok was seen walking through the hallway in search of Manak until she found Kyung Hee, who was already lifeless with the exact cause of the janitor's death unknown. Without wasting time, Sae Byeok immediately informed the Administration Bureau of her discovery, prompting Soonwol and her team to arrive at the location for an investigation. Soonwol's unexpected survival seemed to surprise Sae Byeok initially, but after recounting all the events that had transpired, she realized that the ghost had rewound time. On the other hand, Sae Ha's mother appeared to have regained her health as if she had never suffered from the illness that previously left her bedridden. Meanwhile, from the photo hanging on the wall of Sae Ha's house, his father was known as a world hero for allegedly successfully completing the grid system capable of protecting the Earth from solar storms. Unfortunately, behind this achievement, Sehun was also known as a murderer for killing Jung Hyuk. From the surveillance footage of the Institute of Radio Research, Sehun was suspected of collaborating with the ghost to kill the janitor. Unexpectedly, in the footage, Sae Ha was seen with the ghost, who was about to kill Jung Hyuk, and due to the facial resemblance between Sae Ha and his father, everyone assumed that the man assisting the ghost was Sehun. Sometime later, Sae Ha and Sae Byeok met after discovering a rather surprising fact about C1, who was Jung Hyuk's adopted son, being Manak. Because of this, after killing Jung Hyuk, the ghost always followed and protected Manak, leading Sae Byeok to conclude that the ghost might have a blood relationship with Manak. Sae Ha mentioned that this could be easily investigated if they could go back in time, but unfortunately, he no longer had the ghost's chip and weapon. The next morning, Soonwol saw Sae Byeok coming out of an orphanage, so Soonwol, who was curious, immediately met with the orphanage's director named Dokju to inquire about Sae Byeok's reason for visiting. According to Dokju, Sae Byeok went to her to seek information about Manak's identity and childhood, known to have lived in the orphanage. Dokju then recount that Manak was found by the orphanage when he was 5 years old and was known as C1. The orphanage tried to spread the news about Manak's whereabouts, but unfortunately, no one came to pick him up. As it had been a long time with no one coming for him, the orphanage decided to change C1's name to Manak. However, the ghost was known to have visited the orphanage to visit Manak by claiming to be his sibling. Meanwhile, Sae Byeok, increasingly curious about the relationship between Manak and the ghost, went to the hospital to request a DNA test from the doctor for the two fugitives. On the other hand, after visiting the orphanage, Soonwol returned to the office to examine the surveillance footage from 1997. There, she was surprised to see Sae Ha involved in the murder case of Jung Hyuk 24 years ago. Because of this, she met Sae Ha in front of his house to inquire how he could teleport to the past. Unfortunately, before Sae Ha could explain anything, Soonwol suddenly received a phone call informing her that Manak had been successfully captured by the Administration Bureau agents. Upon hearing the news, they hurried to the Administration Bureau office to interrogate Manak. At the same time, the doctor assisting Sae Byeok with the DNA test appeared to contact her to inform her that Manak and the ghost had no blood relation whatsoever. Even from the DNA matching percentage, they were very far from being siblings. Strangely, the doctor, who also conducted a DNA test on Sae Byeok, found that the DNA match percentage between Sae Byeok and the ghost reached 100%, indicating that they were blood relatives. Hearing this, Sae Byeok was shocked and did not expect to have a blood relationship with the ghost. In the Administration Bureau building, the agents were seen taking Manak to a special room for fugitives and using him as bait to lure the ghost to the building. Along the way, the group of agents escorting Manak encountered Soonwol and Sae Ha, who had just arrived. Without hesitation, Soonwol asked Manak to remember the murder of Jung Hyuk in 1997 and questioned whether Sae Ha was the one who took the life of his adoptive father. After recalling for a moment, Manak finally realized that Sae Ha was the one who had taken Jung Hyuk's life, prompting him to attempt to attack Sae Ha. The agents then tried to stop Manak's actions by taking him to jail. Meanwhile, Sae Ha was also arrested and tied to a chair in the laboratory for his involvement in Jung Hyuk's murder 24 years ago. During interrogation by Soonwol, Sae Ha admitted that he had indeed traveled through space and time to 1997 using the ghost chip and weapon. Upon learning this fact, the Administration Bureau decided to use Sae Ha as bait to lure the ghost. On the other hand, some agents of the Administration Bureau were closely guarding Manak in a room, including installing a tracker on the fugitive so that the Administration Bureau could know his whereabouts if he attempted to escape. Shortly after, the lights in the building suddenly went out, allowing Manak to take advantage of the opportunity to revolt and flee from the guards toward the emergency stairs. With the tracker installed, Soonwol and her team seemed to easily track him. Besides Manak, they also secretly installed a tracker on Sae Ha, who was now tasked with locating Manak. Outside, Manak appeared to continue running through small alleys to evade the Administration Bureau agents, chasing him until at a small intersection, he collided with a man in a black jacket, causing him to fall. At the same time, Sae Ha, still searching for Manak, was surprised to find that Manak's tracker had moved into the bag of a man. Sae Ha then continued to search for him in the narrow alleys around him without realizing that Manak was hiding in a place, observing him. After that, Manak suddenly remembered the death of his adoptive father, whom Sae Ha had killed, so in anger, he came out of hiding and stabbed Sae Ha with a metal rod. Due to the stab wound, he lost a lot of blood until he finally died on the spot. At the same time, Administration Bureau agents arrived and shot a tranquilizer dart, causing Manak to lose consciousness. Shortly after, the ghost appeared, and upon seeing the scene, she rewound time to when Manak had just left the Administration Bureau office to escape. At that moment, Sae Byeok, who had seen Manak's whereabouts, hurried to chase him until she met Sae Ha, and they both searched for Manak together. Arriving in front of Manak's hiding place, Sae Ha and Sae Byeok, who lost track, began to be confused. Meanwhile, Manak immediately took the opportunity to attack Sae Ha using a wrench, but his action was thwarted by the ghost, who suddenly appeared at the scene and stopped time. Unexpectedly, a mysterious man with abilities like the ghost tried to stop her action by pushing her. It turned out that the mysterious man had also discarded Manak's tracker when they had previously collided at the intersection. The battle between the ghost and the mysterious man ensued as they chased each other, utilizing their respective powers. Meanwhile, due to their fight, time resumed, and Sae Byeok managed to evade Manak's attack and promptly shot him. Unfortunately, Manak's attack on Sae Ha's head resulted in his death, albeit in a different manner. A year after the incident, Sae Byeok was seen living in a house by the seaside with her baby girl. As she relaxed while carrying her baby, Jin, who had managed to find Sae Byeok, approached her as if he had discovered something that she had been hiding. Shortly after, Jin invited Sae Byeok and her baby girl to a certain place. On the other hand, the grid system that had been protecting the Earth from solar storms slowly began to disappear, causing the Earth to be once again affected by solar storms, resulting in the Administration Bureau office exploding and engulfed in flames. In the series finale, it is revealed that Jin takes Sae Byeok to an isolated house in the woods, and upon arrival, Sae Byeok is surprised to encounter the ghost and Sae Ha, who are both still alive. Moral lesson from the story: if you ever mistake a ghost for an office worker, you might get in trouble with two strangers and a heroic janitor. Remember, always double-check those ordinary office workers. They might be teleporting masterminds.